Bonjour, this is Mike Portnoy, and tune in to watch my exclusive interview with Morow, talking all about Sons of Apollo, my new band with Derek Sherinian, Bumblefoot, Billy Sheehan, and Jeff Scott Soto. New album coming out October 20th. Get the inside scoop right here on Morow. Yeah, I will say that doing the Shattered Fortress tour definitely kind of reignited the flame. Seeing the audience reaction to me playing the Dream Theater music, it just felt like the right time to finally do something like Sons of Apollo. Derek and I had done PSMS back in 2012, and we were doing Dream Theater music in that and doing some more progressive metal instrumental stuff. And even back then we talked about how it might be good to eventually turn this into a full-time band. The time just wasn't right, but I think after the Shattered Fortress experience, it felt like the time was right to finally launch this. No temptation at all. No, we did it with PSMS, and that was fun for what it was. But I knew if Derek and I were ever going to do a new band and make some new music together, it needed to be a real band with vocals. Not that an instrumental band isn't a real band as well, but I knew I wanted it to be, a 5-piece band with vocals. Well, this is absolutely mine and Derek's band. We essentially put it together and produced the album, and he and I are kind of doing this as partners, with the understanding that I am the leader. To be honest, I don't want to sound brash, but it's the truth. When Derek approached me about doing this last year, and let's finally do it, let's get the singer and turn it into a real band, I was like, look, I already have Flying Colors, Metal Allegiance, the Neal Morse Band, Winery Dogs. I can't handle another band where I have to get 1,000 emails every morning from everybody making a decision. So I said to him, if I do another band, it has to be the way that I ran Dream Theater. It has to be the same dynamic. I have to have creative control. I have to be able to call the shots, make decisions on my own, and everybody's got to trust me and my direction as a leader. And Derek was like, absolutely. He's like, we'll be partners, in terms of business and in terms of producing the album, but beyond that, it's the way it was in Dream Theater, where I'm running the shots and I'm in control. So I just had to have that in order to be able to move forward with this band. And everybody's cool with it and understands it and supports that. Well, Tony was perfect for PSMS. To me, that was my dream lineup for an instrumental band. And we love Tony. He's the nicest guy on earth. He's a complete virtuoso instrumental guitar player. But we knew for Sons of Apollo we wanted somebody that was more from the hard rock, heavy metal background, somebody that's a guitar god on stage, and I knew that was Bumblefoot. I knew it. I mean, to me, I've worked with Bumblefoot in different capacities through the years, but it was always playing covers. Me, him, and Billy did Eddie Trunk's 30th anniversary show in America, doing all covers, and me, him, and Billy had done some other shows, and then Bumblefoot had done some Metal Allegiance tours with me. So I knew that he could play anything, he's very well known for what he did with Guns N' Roses, but that he was playing Guns N' Roses music. It wasn't the proper outlet for him to shine and show his thing. But I knew what he was capable of and knew that he was the guitar hero that was needed for Sons of Apollo. I know Jeff dating back to the first two Yngwie albums as well. In fact, I saw Rising Force and Talus live together in 1985. Obviously, Jeff was singing in Rising Force and Billy was playing in Talus. So I saw Jeff and Billy on stage together 32 years ago. And I've followed Jeff's career all these years since. And a couple of years ago, Jeff's solo band went on tour with the Winery Dogs in South America, and I would just watch him each night, and he's just such an amazing frontman. I knew he was the singer for this. You know, when Derek and I started talking about taking the PSMS concept and adding a vocalist, to me it was like, Jeff's our man. You know, I knew it was Bumblefoot and Jeff. That was my dream lineup, and we made it happen. And I think Jeff's vocals are perfect because he makes the band so listenable. His voice is just very easy to listen to. There's a lot of progressive metal bands that have these crazy operatic, screaming, you know, I don't know. It's just not my thing. And I know Derek doesn't like that either. We wanted a singer that was somebody that anybody can listen to, and he's got a very soothing voice. He's very much like the anchor to this band. Well, there's two stages to the music. There's the music and then there's the vocals. The music was a full collaboration between me, Derek, and Bumblefoot for most of the music. And then Billy joined us a little later on, so there's a few songs that Billy was also equally involved in. But basically, the music stemmed from that, a collaboration with us sitting in a room, bouncing ideas off of each other. Derek did have God of the Sun and Divine Addiction. He brought those in almost complete on his own. But everything else was me, Derek, and Bumblefoot, you know, putting things together, and then later on Billy doing the same with us. So that was the music. Then the vocals was a different process. Once all the music was done, then myself and Derek and Jeff got together and worked on that together. And a lot of times Jeff would come in with lyrics and some melodies, and then we would shape them together. He did a live, and I think a live and maybe one other. He brought it, and it was just perfect, so we left it alone. But a lot of the other stuff we worked together and maybe changed some words here or changed some melodies there. So there's two different processes, music and vocals. Well, I keep, in my phone, I have a list of like 100 different band names, you know, because it seems every year I have a new band. So, you know, one of the biggest one of the biggest, you know, decisions in a band is trying to come up with a good name. So I've, through the years, compiled this list. And me and Derek started looking at it, and Derek saw the word Apollo on there. I originally had just Apollo as a band name. And it's like, oh, there's probably a band called Apollo, but why don't we use that word? And then we talked about maybe Apollo Creed, the boxer from Rocky. That would have been a cool name, but we figured that would be probably a trademark issue. And then we started thinking of Apollo, like the space shuttle missions, maybe going down that road. But then Derek was the one that suggested Sons of Apollo and gave it that kind of Greek mythology twist. You know, Apollo was the god of music. So once he suggested that, I was like, okay, that's cool, and here we are. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the crest, the logo of the band, you know, obviously Derek and I are represented there. I'm the lion with the beard, Derek's the eagle, and then there's the double neck guitar and the double neck bass and a crown for Jeff. So we're kind of all represented in there, but it kind of gives you that Greek mythology kind of feel to it. I think it helps bring it out. I would have liked for the lion to have a blue beard, but we wanted to keep it all gray and black and white and gray. We did the writing and recording in March. Yeah, for me that was in between the Neal Morse American tour and European tour. I mean, this is my life. This is what I do. I have to juggle 3, 4, 5 different bands every year, so it's nothing new for me. Every album I've recorded has been in between legs of another band's tour, and this is the way I work. I mean, right now I have a Metal Allegiance album that I'm still working on, you know, while I'm here doing press for this. So I'm very used to juggling all the different bands and everything. But yeah, we started the album in March, and once the writing and the basic tracks were done, myself and Derek and Jeff got back together, I think, in May, and then we mixed it in July, and here we are. Well, like I said, I'm very used to juggling many bands. I usually have 3 to 4 bands a year going at any given point. I mean, last year I was juggling Neal Morse and Twisted Sister and the Winery Dogs, and this year I'm juggling the Shattered Fortress and the Neal Morse Band and Sons of Apollo, and I'm very used to it. You just have to be responsible and strategic with the scheduling. And then once an album comes out, it kind of becomes very obvious what the work ethic of the band is, and if it's going to be just a side project that plays a couple of shows or no shows, or a part-time band like the way Flying Colors is, maybe do a couple shows, per album, or a full-time band like what I had with the Winery Dogs. We'd go out and play 100 shows and go all around the world a couple times. Our intentions with Sons of Apollo is to be a full-time band and for this to be the priority for everybody involved. And I think 2018 is going to do that. We're going to pretty much spend the entire year touring with this band all around the world, and I think it'll be obvious that this is a full-time band. And that doesn't mean all my other things are going to go away. The whole time I was in the whole time I was in Dream Theater, I had all these other things going. The whole time I was out there with the Winery Dogs, which was very full-time, I still had all these other things going. So it's very possible to juggle all these things and manage it. I can spend all next year out with Sons of Apollo, still make a Metal Allegiance album, still make another Neal Morse Band album, and I'll figure out the scheduling. That's my problem, not yours. Don't worry, I could do it. I haven't had time. The minute I left Dream Theater, all these other things came about. Right after Dream Theater came Adrenaline Mob, Flying Colors. I was working with John Sykes at the time, which turned into Winery Dogs, PSMS. I mean, all these things just came to me immediately after Dream Theater that it hasn't stopped since, for 7 years now. So there hasn't been time to do a Mike Portnoy album. When I go home, which is very rare at this point, I just want to shut everything off and hang out with my family and sit by my pool with my dog or watch a movie, maybe someday. It would be nice to do a solo album that I could collaborate with lots of different people and do different styles, but really I guess my entire career has been like that, so there's kind of no need right now. It is a bit of a merge. When I did Progressive Nation at Sea, we were kind of in competition with Cruise to the Edge because they were the two prog cruises out there. And once it became obvious that Progressive Nation at Sea was kind of just a one-time thing, or at least as of now, that's when myself and Larry Morand, who runs Cruise to the Edge, decided, well, let's combine powers and work together. So since then, he's been very open to my ideas and suggestions. Last year, he let me pick a few bands. I picked Aiken and Pain of Salvation. He's been great in letting me have some input. I miss having full control. With Progressive Nation at Sea, I made every decision. I picked every band. I scheduled the whole thing. I came up with all the promotional things. So it was nice to have that creative control over the Progressive Nation cruise. But I'm happy collaborating or helping or just making suggestions to Cruise to the Edge if Larry ever is looking for it.
So there won't be any, of course, never say never, Progressive Nation at Sea with your own...
it's up to Larry if at any point he would ever want to give me that platform to do another Progressive Nation cruise. It would probably have to be along with him as opposed to competing with it. But I am still free to do any Progressive Nation tours, which is where it all began. I did Progressive Nation 2008 and 2009. I did 3 tours between America and Europe. And the Progressive Nation trademark is mine. So I would say it's more likely you'll see a Progressive Nation tour again. You're my divine addiction. Well, I've loved watching Max develop and grow. He just keeps getting better and better. I mean, he does things on the drums that I can't do. He's just really developing at such a great rate. And I think Next to None are a great band. I think their last album was a great leap forward for them. And opening Fish Out of Fortress was great. I think they need to find their own audience though, because they are much heavier than the things that I do, and they're more part of today's scene with bands like Periphery or Between the Buried and Me and more bands like that. So it's been great to give them the opportunity with things like the Progressive Nation tour, and hopefully there's some people in the audience that can appreciate the younger sounds and styles that Next to None do. But it's obviously not for everybody. It's a much newer sound, today's generation. So hopefully they can have some prog metal fans, but also find their own audience with what they do.